When I bought my home, all I wanted was peace and privacy. Tucked at the end of a cul-de-sac, it had everything I needed: clean air, silence, and my own garage space. Emphasis on my own. So when I saw a strange figure walking near my property one early morning, clipboard in hand and phone out like she was recording something, I didn't think much of it at first. I figured maybe she was just one of those concerned neighbors. I was new here. I let it go. Welcome to Prodigy Tales. Make sure you like and subscribe for your top-notch HOA drama. But soon enough, she kept reappearing, always watching, always inspecting. She never waved, never smiled, just stared like she was sizing me up for a lawsuit. I'd hear her voice float from behind hedges. That shrub looks a half-inch too tall. Or, are they even allowed to paint their door that color? She had that energy you can feel through a wall. Tight-lipped, judgmental, and the type who corrects spelling errors on flyers in red pen. Then came the morning I walked out to grab a wrench from the garage and nearly tripped over a white Lexus, parked, right in the middle of my garage. I blinked twice thinking I must be sleep deprived. But nope. There it was. Shiny, smug, and definitely not mine. For a split second, I thought maybe it was a mistake. Wrong address? Emergency? But when I stepped outside, there was Karen, smirking from her porch with a cup of coffee like this was her world, and I was just living in it. I didn't say anything. Not yet. Maybe I was too stunned. Maybe I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. But deep down, I had a feeling this wasn't going to be a one-time thing. I could already see her type. HOA board president. The enforcer. The queen of passive-aggressive letters taped to doors. My silence was her green light, apparently, because the next morning, her car was still there, this time with the windows slightly down and a pine-scented air freshener swinging proudly like a victory flag. I took a picture. I didn't say a word. But inside, I was already making plans. Because if she wanted to play games, I was about to make sure she regretted ever stepping foot on my driveway. The next morning, I waited by my window with a mug of coffee of my own, just to see if lightning would strike twice. And boy, did it. Karen's Lexus slithered right into my garage like it owned the place. She stepped out in her little workout outfit, didn't even glance at my door, and strutted off like my property was some public parking lot. This wasn't a mistake. This was entitlement dipped in HOA authority and served cold with a smirk. I stepped outside and approached her as calmly as I could. "Hey Karen, just wanted to check. Did you mean to park in my garage?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. She looked at me like I'd asked her to recite Shakespeare backwards. "Oh well," she shrugged. "I assumed you weren't using it, and as HOA president, I have jurisdiction to make temporary adjustments if necessary." My jaw dropped. Jurisdiction? Temporary adjustments? This woman really thought she was Queen Elizabeth of our cul-de-sac. "Karen, it's my private garage." "That's trespassing," I said, trying to stay composed. "And just because you run the HOA doesn't give you the right to use my property." She sipped her drink. "Then file a complaint," she said sweetly. "We'll review it at the next HOA board meeting." "Oh, wait. I am the board." I should have expected it, but the audacity still hit like a slap. She turned and walked off, humming like she just won a round of bingo. I stood there, stunned, before walking back inside and closing my door gently so I wouldn't break it. She wanted a reaction. She wanted me to get angry, yell, lose my cool. But I wasn't about to give her the satisfaction. Not yet. That day, I reviewed our HOA rules just to confirm she was bluffing. As expected, there was nothing, no clause, no footnote, no exception, that allowed her or anyone else to touch another homeowner's private garage space. Karen was bluffing with confidence. She was trespassing, and she was doing it proudly. I printed out the HOA guidelines, highlighted the section on property boundaries, and even attached photos of her car sitting in my garage. I slipped it in an envelope and hand-delivered it to her mailbox with a little sticky note. "Thought you'd want to double-check your jurisdiction. Kindly keep your car off my property." The next morning, her car was still in my garage, and this time she parked diagonally, just to be extra obnoxious. I stood at the edge of my garage, arms folded, staring at her luxury Lexus, lounging inside like it paid rent. My first instinct was to scream, but then I realized something far more powerful. I didn't need to yell. I needed to plot. Because Karen had made one critical mistake. She assumed I was just another docile neighbor scared of her plastic HOA crown. She didn't know she was about to get schooled in a lesson titled, Don't Poke the Quiet Ones. First, I put on my best poker face and acted like nothing bothered me. I waved at her that afternoon like a friendly neighbor. Hey, Karen, hope you're having a lovely day. She looked confused for a split second, probably wondering why I wasn't fuming. She gave a smug little grin and walked away, assuming her car had won the war. But what she didn't know, I had already made arrangements. That evening, I called up a buddy who worked at a towing company. Not your average street towers, but the kind that handled high-profile repossessions. I told him I had a car on my private property that needed removing. Showed him all the pictures, including timestamps and even the security cam footage from my doorbell camera. Everything was by the book. And that car? It vanished from my garage before sunrise. The next day, Karen came marching up my driveway in a fury, her tennis visor practically bouncing off her head. "Where's my car?" she snapped. "What did you do?" I didn't blink. "Oh, I sold it," I said flatly. Her lips twitched. "You what?" "I got tired of seeing it in my garage. It was blocking access to my freezer. So I sold it," I repeated calmly, sipping my coffee. "You might want to call a cab." She looked like a kettle about to explode. "You can't just sell someone's car," I shrugged. "You parked it in my garage without permission for days. I figured it was abandoned. You know how the city handles that." I walked back inside and shut the door while she screamed bloody murder behind me. My phone buzzed with angry texts from unknown HOA numbers, but I didn't reply. Let them guess. Let her sweat. By nightfall, Karen had turned my quiet neighborhood into a circus. She marched door to door with her clipboard, sobbing and screaming, telling everyone how I stole and sold her car. Meanwhile, I sat on my porch, eating popcorn, watching her unravel like a badly stitched curtain. Her tears weren't from pain, they were from losing control. And control was her favorite drug. But here's the twist. I hadn't sold her car. Nope. That would have gotten messy. Instead, I had it moved to an old barn on my uncle's land 2 towns over. I had just needed to watch her break down, to see her ego melt like butter on a Texas sidewalk. She stormed up to my porch the next morning, this time with 2 HOA board members in tow, Chuck and Lydia, both as useless as a screen door on a submarine. Chuck tried to act tough. "You can't just sell a vehicle that doesn't belong to you," he said. Lydia chimed in, "You're making the entire neighborhood uncomfortable with your behavior." I leaned forward in my rocking chair. "Karen, would you like your car back?" The shock on her face almost made me laugh. "Wait, you didn't sell it?" I smirked. "Nah, I just wanted to teach you a little something about respecting other people's property. You parked in my garage like it was your personal driveway, repeatedly, even after I warned you. So yeah, I moved it somewhere you couldn't reach it." Her face went red. "This is harassment." "No," I replied coolly. "This is restraint. If I wanted to harass you, I'd have actually followed through." Chuck and Lydia stood awkwardly as I handed Karen a piece of paper with an address. "Your car's safe. I didn't damage it, but you can pick it up after you agree, on record, that you'll never trespass on my property again." Karen sneered, but the desperation in her eyes told the truth. She wanted that car back more than she wanted to win. "Fine," she muttered. "I promise I won't step on your property again." I made her say it twice, on video. She snatched the paper and stormed off, cursing under her breath. And just when I thought the drama had ended, 3 days later, I heard my garage door open. I froze. The metallic clank of my garage door opening was unmistakable. I peeked through my blinds and sure enough, there she was. Karen, pulling her freshly retrieved car into my garage again like it was her God-given right. Her smug face stared ahead like she was daring me to stop her. I swear, this woman had the audacity of 10 dictators. I walked out calmly, no yelling, no fuss. Just a quiet tap on her driver's side window. She rolled it down like I was a nuisance fly. "Didn't we just go through this?" I asked. Karen shrugged, chewing her gum loudly. "There's no rule that says I can't park here. You're being overdramatic. I'm on the HOA board. I can park wherever I please." That's when something inside me snapped. Not the angry, reckless kind of snap. The cold, methodical kind. I said nothing, just nodded, turned, and walked back inside. She probably thought she won again, thought I'd roll over like every other neighbor she bullied, but this time she underestimated just how far I'd go to teach her a lesson she'd never forget. The next morning, she woke up in the dark. The garage door didn't open. The lights didn't work. Her car was locked inside, and I had disabled the motor manually. Karen was trapped in her metal entitlement box with no way out. I could hear her yelling faintly from my living room. Banging, screaming, threats that got more desperate by the hour. I didn't respond. I gave her food and water through the back window after 10 hours, but only because I'm not a monster. Still, I made sure the message was clear. This was the consequence of arrogance. 23 hours and 48 minutes after she parked in my garage again, I finally opened the door. Karen stumbled out, hair a mess, mascara dripping, looking like she'd just escaped a horror movie. "You're insane!" she screeched. I handed her the video footage of her violating her promise and smiled. "You broke your word. I just reminded you what consequences feel like." She didn't speak. She got in her car and drove off, tires screeching down the street. That was the last time she ever parked on my property. Life was finally quiet, peaceful. My garage stayed empty when it needed to be, just like it always should have been. Karen? Well, she avoided me like the plague. No HOA notices, no flyers, no accidental trespasses, just silence. And that was more satisfying than any yelling match. About a week later, I got a letter, not from the HOA, but from several of my neighbors. It had over a dozen signatures on it, all thanking me for standing up to Karen. Turns out I wasn't the only one she'd harassed. People had stories. Unauthorized inspections, rude notes on trash cans, threats about yard length, even fines for improper curtain color. One guy claimed she called the police on his son's lemonade stand. Suddenly, everything made sense. Word spread fast after the garage incident. Karen's shiny armor as the self-appointed queen of the neighborhood had cracked, and it shattered fast. The board called an emergency HOA meeting. People turned up in droves. Some were quiet, others angry. Photos, complaints, even a petition to strip Karen of her HOA title were passed around. Her reign of entitlement had finally caught up with her. She tried to defend herself, of course. Claimed I kidnapped her by locking her in the garage. Claimed I manipulated her. But the board had seen the footage I submitted. The footage of her parking in my garage after promising not to. The footage of her laughing like she owned the place. And just like that, she was done. Karen was voted out, stripped of her position, fined by the HOA, and issued a public warning for trespassing. The board told her in plain terms, "You're no longer welcome here." She moved out 3 days later, tail between her legs, without even looking back. I walked through my front yard the next morning and finally felt it. That weight on my chest? Gone. My garage? Mine again. The air? Fresh. Neighbors waved. A few stopped to chat. One even brought me a pie. Sometimes standing up for yourself isn't about yelling louder, it's about being smarter. And just sometimes, karma comes with a garage door opener. The end. Please like and subscribe for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think Karen got what she deserved? Comment below.